What is going on, my fellow nerds? Operator Otter here, and today we are going to discuss how to farm 3 mythics per hour by adjusting how we kill Belial to be as efficient as possible, while also discussing how we're going to obtain the Belial boss materials to support our farming ventures. Now, the reason we're having a mythic farm guide 2 weeks into the season, which seems a little late, is because just having the mythic is no longer enough. There are many builds in Diablo 4 where having a greater affix roll on a specific roll of the mythic, or even a double greater affix roll on the mythic, is a build defining characteristic that is going to change the gameplay dramatically. Now, the cool thing about this strategy is that it's actually more efficient than just creating a new character, getting them to 60, and then doing boss kills to actually acquire the reputation to then get the resplendent sparks. That usually takes about an hour, and you're going to get enough resplendent sparks to get one mythic, but you're also not really going to get anything other than that from that entire hour's worth of work. With this strategy, not only are you going to get more than one mythic per hour, but you're also going to be able to attain maybe some very good gear, some good gold, and you're going to be able to get materials and souls that you're going to need for your masterworking adventures, because boss farming is the most efficient way to do that. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, if you're not interested in wanting to watch the entire video, because this is going to be a rather long one, and you're more interested in wanting to look at a specific topic for your boss farming strategy, here's the plan of attack for today. And what you can do is you can go ahead and look in the description below for the timestamps, or you can go ahead and look on that YouTube timeline and find whichever part is going to be relevant to you. But if you want to learn the entire thing, as everything is going to connect to itself and make all total sense in the end, then I would stay a while and listen. Now, before we even start discussing how to efficiently kill Belial with specific strategies, the first thing that we need to discuss is how are we going to actually acquire the Belial mats to kill Belial as many times as we need to. Because if you don't have the materials, then you can't kill Belial, so it only makes sense, right? Well, this is the part that kind of actually upsets me as well, and I know it's going to upset a lot of other people, but unfortunately trying to get Belial mats naturally in the game is probably one of the most atrocious oversights I have ever seen. It is really, really bad, and I'm going to show you why. In order to spawn Belial, we need 2 Betrayer's Husk, and we're able to get Belial to spawn from about 10 boss kills on average, and he's going to drop 1 Betrayer's Husk. So we need 20 regular boss kills to get 1 Belial spawn. Now, the average drop rate for a mythic seems to be equivalent to what it was in the old Season 4 to Season 6 era, where Duriel and Andariel had a 2% drop rate for mythics, is what it seems to be about for Belial. And I understand what you're thinking. Otter, I've done like 200-300 kills of Belial. I have not gotten a mythic. I understand where you're at. When I started this season, I had to do 220 Belial kills before I got my first mythic. So I completely understand where you're at, but that's just kind of how RNG works statistically. You can get them within 3 kills, you could get it in 300 kills, but after doing thousands of kills, it's going to average out around 2% or 1 in every 50 Belial kills. So how many total Belial mats are we going to need? We're going to need a total of about 100 Betrayer's Rust to get an average of 1 mythic. And that means that if we're getting 1 Betrayer's Husk every 20, then we're going to need a total of 2,000 boss kills in order to get enough materials to get a mythic from Belial. And it costs 12 materials of whatever in order to spawn a boss, which means you're going to need 24,000 materials in order to spawn enough Belial kills to attain 1 mythic through the averageness of RNG. And we know that the most efficient way to farm materials right now is actually the Blood Maiden for the Exquisite Blood for Zir, and that can give you about 39 if you put in all 3 of the hearts, and that means you're going to need a total of about 600 maiden kills, or a total of 1,850 hearts, so you have to spend the time to actually get the hearts. But let's just imagine you actually had 1,850 hearts just in your inventory, and it takes about 3 minutes to do a maiden. That means you're going to have to farm for 31 hours of just pure maiden before you get enough materials to get enough husk to kill Belial enough times to average out 1 mythic. Yikes. Thankfully, and this is the only time you're ever going to hear me say thankfully about this subject, there was a dupe, which means that the boss materials are actually really cheap. They average out around 5 million per Betrayer's Husk, and they fluctuate prices throughout the day based on what markets are open, so just try to find the most efficient one for you. The issue here is that the solution that I'm proposing is you have to engage in trade. And a lot of people don't want to have to do that. And I completely understand your point. In fact, the whole concept of I have to engage in trade in order to play a game efficiently is something that's never really sat right with me. It's actually one of the main plights that I have with Path of Exile 2 right now. But that's another subject. I understand that we can talk about that. I'm sure the comments are going to be filled with that. But at the end of the day, this is the hand we're dealt. And this is the best way to play it. So I'm going to show you how to kind of manipulate the market in a way so that we can actually get tons of boss mats, and this is going to be an issue that will never plague you again. So if the solution is to engage in trade and buy the materials with gold, then how do we acquire the gold? Because naturally getting gold in the game is also completely and totally atrocious. The way that we are going to achieve this is by we're going to sell runes. Yes, runes are by far and large the most efficient way to make gold in Diablo 4 because of the fact that people are using the runes to craft their mythics. And when you craft a mythic with those runes, they disappear forever, meaning that there's a sink to the runes even though people are gaining them. So they have a very steady market value. Now, the cool thing about this strategy is that every single time you kill Belial, he's going to drop one rune. So if you buy enough materials to kill Belial 50 times, that means you're going to get 50 runes. And you only need 2 of them in order to reset your entire stock. And there are multiple runes that you can sell 2 of, and you're going to reset your entire stock. It is a just fueling strategy. It is very, very, very efficient. Now, what if you're in the position where you don't even have 500 million gold and you can't even buy that many materials? Maybe you only have like 50 million gold and you're like, how do I even get that amount of gold? I don't even have the runes. You're saying I get the runes from Belial kills. How do I even get that gold? Well, 2 ways. Number 1, if you actually just have runes in your inventory, we're going to show you a trick here where you can actually make really valuable runes, or just run Tribute of Harmony a couple of times and get like 20 runes. And then from here, we're going to go to the next step. I'm going to show you a trick on how to actually get pretty valuable runes. Now, before we go over the strategy on how to get good runes, we need to know what runes are good and which ones are actually worth selling. And that is why I have created this chart that actually goes through every single one of these runes. Now, I did this about 8 hours ago, and I have put in every single market value for every single rune here. Now, these prices are subject to change based on the day and based on the season length, but everything is going to move in flux. So if the runes are more expensive or they sell for a higher price, that probably means the Belial mats are also more expensive and vice versa. That's just kind of the way that the market rolls on what's going on with the time of day. Now, if you would like your own copy so that you can go ahead and manipulate this chart by putting in the tables and sorting them from A to Z to find out which ones are good, which ones are bad, based on whatever you want to do when we go over this, I am going to say this one time. If you would like your own copy, when you open this up, in the link in the description below, there's a link to this. It will bring you up to this page. If you would like your own copy, you literally just go up here, click File, make a copy, and then share it on your drive, make the copy, and then it's going to open it up and you're going to have your own copy right here. And now you can edit it yourself and you can do whatever. If you make some mistake as to screwing up some of the formulas or doing something to screw up the chart, then just delete that one, go back and re-download this one and try again. So when you open this up, it's going to sort all the runes alphabetically, but really what we want to know is the market value and the Belial Mats ratio. So what we'll do is we'll do the market value first. So we go here, Z to A, this is going to have the highest value right here. And what you can see is that an Ahu is going to be able to sell for 400 million gold on the market. And that's really good, except the fact that Ahu is a legendary, which means it's a pretty hard rune to acquire. So what we have here is, though you can get 80 Belial Mats from an Ahu because it's 5 million per, there's a rarity coefficient here. And what that means is that the rarity coefficient is just stating that it's more difficult to get this rune because it's a legendary, which means that the Belial Mats to rarity ratio, this number doesn't mean anything other than if it's higher, it's better. The higher the number here, the better, because we want basically, well, how rare is the rune compared to how much gold am I making with the rune? And if we adjust the Belial Mats ratio here, we can see that the best one is actually Taun. Taun is a magic rune, but it sells for 300 million a pop, which means that you are going to make giga gold off of this because you probably have a lot of them in your inventory. The same with Sem, and then with Locke and Zik, they're rare, so they're going to be a little bit less common, and then after that we get into our legendaries. Now, the question that we may have here is, why are these runes more expensive than others? And the reason being is that if we look at Taun is what's used to make a Harlequin quest. If we look at Locke, that's what's used to make a Harlequin quest. And if we look at Sem and Zek, they are used to make a Ring of Starless Skies. And so it's like, so what's giving these runes value is the fact that these are the runes that are used to craft these specific mythic uniques. So now that we know what runes we are looking for and which ones we actually want to acquire, how are we actually going to acquire them in game if we actually just don't even have them in our inventory to sell? Well, this is where we're going to learn how to actually transmute the runes to hopefully get RNG to bless us and give us some better runes. So let's go ahead and show how we're going to do that. So the first thing that I like to do is obviously looking at the Belial Mats, the rarity ratio. The lowest ones are going to be the ones that we want to sell. So I'm going to come down here and I'm probably going to go to like here, right? Like Zek and below is probably the ones that I would go for, or maybe even Feo. Like Feo and below, the 10s and belows are really, really bad. They have no value whatsoever. So what I did was I went into my stash and I literally went and pulled out all of the runes that are worth basically nothing if I were to sell them on the market. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the jeweler in any town. So we'll go to the jeweler right here and we can go to rune crafting. And what you can see is that it's not pulling up every single rune we have in our stash. It's only the ones that are applicable in our inventory. So this is a really good way to make sure that you're not going to transmute any type of runes of value. So if we come here to our legendary rune of ritual, we can see that we can reroll 3 of our Nagus into a random rune. Now, the rule of thumb, I believe, do not attack me on this. I'm pretty sure this is the rule. The rune transmutation can only roll into the same rarity or higher. So if you reroll 3 legendary runes, it can only become a legendary rune. If you reroll 3 rare runes, it can become rare or legendary. If you reroll 3 magics, it can become a magic, a rare, or a legendary. I believe that is the rule. Don't completely quote me on that, but that's essentially what's going on there. So let's say that we are going to reroll our Nagus. Now right here, as you can see, it will tell you on the bottom gray number right here, this is the total amount of runes that you have in your inventory, and this is how much it costs. Now, what I personally like to do is if let's say this said 3 out of 3 or 3 out of 6, I am not going to transmute to consume all of them. And this is because there could be a scenario where I want to use one of them in a build that I have, and I don't just want to burn that rune off. So I'm only going to do it until I have a little bit of leftover. So right here, we have 1 Nagu. We can go ahead and we can transmute this Nagu. And it transmuted into another lith. That's essentially what happened, crafted a lith. Okay, so we're going to do this with all of our runes, and let's see if we're able to create any type of rune of value. All right, so I have just completed all of my rune transmutations. Let's see if we have gotten any runes of good value. So I'm going to go ahead and sort them. Let's see what we got. Liths are not worth it. Nagu sells, it's okay. Zol sells a little bit. We can go ahead and check our chart just to go ahead and make sure that we are good there. So we could take a look at Zol and go ahead and go here and just edit the sort, do something like this. So Zol is a legendary, sells for 200. Okay, so we got one that sells for 200, and then we have a Nagu as well, and a Nagu sells for 200. So this is 400. So we already have 80 materials just off of those two. All right, so that's good. It works okay. Let's see if we got anything else. We are able to get, nope, none of those sell. Sem, okay, Sem sells for a good amount. That's that's 300, I believe 200, 300 million there. Moni sells for about 100. Nothing here. Oh, there's a lock. There you go. There's 400 million right there. Boom, done. Let's go, keep going across. Nothing there, no Sem. Gar sells for about 100. And any tons? We got 2 tons, baby. All right, so from doing this transmutation, I just got about 1 billion gold. That's what just happened. And just with that easy transmutation right there, I can go sell those runes being the Ton, the Sem, the Lock, the Nagu, and the Zol. And I will actually make about 1 billion or maybe more than 1 billion. And then I can go ahead and buy Belial Mats. And I just got enough gold to buy 100 Belial kills. All right, so now we're going to get into how to farm Belial efficiently. And I think the very first question we need to tackle is whether or not it's worth it to run it in a 4-person party or by yourself. Because the developers very specifically stated that you're going to get more loot with more people, but they didn't clearly define what that meant. So I went in and I tested it. So when you're running an initiate layer boss or a greater layer boss, if you kill them by yourself, you're going to get 7 pieces of loot. If you kill a greater, you're going to get 9. If you do it with 4 players on an initiate, you'll get 8. And if you do it on Duriel, or Dariel, or Harbinger, you'll get 10. So you get 1 extra piece of loot for 4 players. That's the guaranteed. And with 2 or 3 players, it's an increased chance to get that extra piece of loot. But with 4 players, it's a guaranteed chance that you're going to get that extra piece of loot. So you would think that that would apply on Belial, right? Well, unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but with Belial, it's locked to the loot pool of whatever boss you select, and it doesn't actually take into account the fact that you're in a party or not. So whether or not you have one person or 4 people, you're gonna get the same amount of loot every single time. You're gonna get 9 pieces for Andariels and Duriels, and you're gonna get 7 to 8 pieces for Varshan or anything else. That's just it. I don't know why it is that way, but it is. So you're getting the same amount of loot whether you're in 1-person party or 4-person party, but what about the mythic chance? Well, I did 300 Belial kills with a 4-person party and I got 6 mythics. And then I did 300 Belial kills by myself and I got 7 mythics. Now that doesn't mean the chance is better by myself because the chance is so egregiously low that we can have some pretty big variances in when we get our mythics. But if it was a significant difference with a 4-person party, this should have said something like 8, 9, maybe even 10, something like that. But the fact that the chance is nearly even, if not just completely even, means, okay, doing it in a 4-person party is literally doing nothing for us other than maybe I have a carry because I can't kill Belial myself. So what happens if you can kill Belial yourself? Well, this is where the 4-person party points of friction come in that I'm going to argue. Because if you have a 4-person party and you're the carry, that just means the boss has bonus HP, it takes you longer to kill. Period, simple, end of story, right? The second thing is that all 4 chests must open, or you have to wait 12 seconds for the altar to appear. What do I mean by that? All right, well, I'm going to flashbang you here for a second. So hold on, close your eyes. All right, my bad. So when you kill Belial, the chest appears. And you would think that all 4 players can just rush this chest and open it up. No, that can't happen. What actually happens is that orange has to come open up the chest closes, then green, then purple, then brown. It's a very slow process. Or you just have to sit there and wait 12 seconds before the altar reappears and you can get the boss started, regardless of not if everyone has opened the chest. So that's pretty slow because when you're just by yourself, all you have to do is open chest and then altar reappears and you can just go. It's much faster. The other thing is there's miscommunication on when you're going to sell because some people like to sell every 2 runs, every 3 runs, every 4 runs, and it's kind of miscommunicated. And even if you communicate, all right, everybody sell, someone's going to make a mistake and not sell at the time that you need to, and you're waiting on them, and then you decide to start it without them, and then they start having attitudes, and it just turns into a complete fiasco. So because of all of these points of friction, I'm going to actually argue that doing it by yourself is way more efficient than doing it with a 4-person party, especially when the mythic drop chance just seems to be exactly the same by yourself as versus a party. It's weird, but that's just the way it's working. So now let's actually talk about the strategy to farming. So the first thing we're going to talk about in the strategy is where you position yourself on the Belial spawn. You do not want to be too close because he'll knock you down. So you really kind of want to look for like this line behind this little golden arch right here and stay behind that, because otherwise when he spawns, he's going to knock you down. And if you're a lightning spear player, you can see that, oh, I have 8 spears out, and I have 2 spears out. And then his health appears and you can't do your burst damage. So make sure that you position yourself correctly so that you can actually do burst damage to Belial. Or use something that gives you unstoppable so that you don't get knocked down. All right, so let's talk about how you're actually going to kill Belial as efficiently as possible. Step 1, spawn Belial. Right? So we spawn Belial, Belial's doing his little thing, we're amping up, we're getting our enlightenment stacks, Belial's about to spawn, boom, we teleport in, we turn ours on, we overpower him, blap, he dies, cool. All right, from here what's going to happen is that the chest is going to spawn. Now most players, when they open up the chest, they immediately start picking up their loot. Don't do that, because as soon as the chest opens, we have the altar reappear. So we're going to open the chest and immediately redo the altar, all right? So here comes the chest. We open the chest, and we immediately spawn Belial again. Now, when are we going to pick up this loot? Well, every time you kill Belial, he likes to do this very dramatic Shakespearean death. And when he does that, that's when we can pick up our loot because we're waiting for the chest to spawn. So we're going to spawn Belial. We wait for him to spawn. We get everything ready. Go in, blow him up. Do our thing, and then as soon as he dies, that's when we go over and we start picking up all the loot. And as we pick up the loot, right when we finish picking up all the loot, boom, the chest spawns. And then from here, we open up the chest, we start the altar. We're going to do this a total of 3 times, but we're still going to spawn the boss on the 4th time. So what's going to happen is we're going to do this until our inventory is full. Once our inventory is full, just hold on, we're going to keep going. So we'll do this 3 more times. When I pick up this loot right here, this is when my inventory is full, okay? Right here, this is where my inventory is full. And if I open this chest, I can't pick up any of the loot. I don't care. I'm just opening the chest and I'm going back to town. As soon as this chest appears, I can go back to town. We're just going to leave the loot on the ground. We go back to town. We're immediately going to do in Kedbardu, because Kedbardu is the city that we want to set because it's the shortest distance from the portal to the blacksmith. Go to the blacksmith, salvage, immediately get on the horse, come on back. And then because we already opened the chest and the loot is on the ground, we can just immediately go to the altar, respawn Belial, and do it again. And that's the rotation. We just keep doing that over and over and over again. And if you do this fast enough, you're gonna get some pretty good times on your Belial kills. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch this whole rotation sped up and see how long it takes me to kill Belial 6 times and then start the 7th spawn of Belial. Okay, so we were able to do 2 rotations of 3 kills on the Belials each in 3 minutes and 13 seconds. So what does this mean for our loot and what we're going to do for our mythic chance? So here we go. Let's do some math, right? So 3 minutes and 13 seconds for 2 rotations. That's 193 seconds total for those 2 rotations. For the time per rotation, since there were 2 of them, we'll take that 193, divide it by 2. We get 96.5 seconds per rotation. So now how many seconds are in an hour? There's 3,600. Now we need to find out how many rotations we're able to do in that 1 hour, which is going to come out to 37 rotations per hour. But in every rotation, we're able to kill Belial 3 times. So how many kills per hour are we able to get? We're able to get 111 kills per hour. We know that we have a 2% chance on each kill to get a mythic, or 1 out of every 50 kills. So we're able to get about 2.22 mythics per hour. So was my thumbnail clickbait? Sorta. Kinda, not really, because it is greater than 2, and because the chances are so low, you could have some pretty big variance. So some of you are definitely going to be able to get 3, maybe even 4 in that 1 hour, and some of you are going to get 1 or 0. But I have definitely had multiple times where I've gotten 3 mythics per hour. So still the best mythic farm per hour that we can get. But what are other things that we're getting? Because if you're just farming for mythics, it doesn't really feel all that great. It kind of feels kind of loserish, right? But there are so many other things that we get from killing Belial. So let's talk about that. So per rotation bonus, we are able to get 36,000 reputation, 24 forgotten souls, 350 veiled crystals, and 3 runes. What does this actually mean when we start calculating things out? Well, when we do the seasonal rotation, what this means is that we're able to get 19 caches within that hour. And each cache gives us this stuff. And so that means that per hour, we're able to get all of this stuff. And I'm not going to go into detail about what all this means, but there will be a video dropped in 2 days that's going to show you how we're going to be able to do some things and maybe crank out our gear really quickly and efficiently, right? All right, for Forgotten Souls, just by killing Belial that many times, you're going to get 888 souls just from the Belial kills. And then you're going to get almost 13,000 Veiled Crystals. You'll get 111 runes. And of that 111 runes, I'm going to say that at least 15 of them are going to sell for an average of 300k each, which means you're able to farm 4.5 billion gold if you were to sell all of those runes on the market, or you can keep some of those runes to actually go into your mythic crafting when you get these mythics and put them into Resplendent Sparks, and then you need to actually craft the mythics themselves. So that is the entire boss rota efficiency and how we're able to do this. And this is kind of what all the big boys are doing right now. So I wanted to give that out to you as the common folk so that you can actually blast and have a really good time this season and be able to gear as best as possible if you care about doing so. That's all I have for you. Operator Otter, out.